Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for turning up on an unexpectedly wet and not very warm evening. As you know, if there is an emergency of fire or such like, the exit doors are right there. As usual, we have our video recording of the system in place.
Fire exits there.
Fire exit. We have our video recording in place. Is anyone else proposing to record the meeting? No. Oh.
I reserve the right to do so.
Did. Okay. Of course you reserve the right to do so. Your right is set out in the standing orders, just for the information that will be considered. Good, so we have an agenda before us and an addendum which we obviously will come to later. First of all, can I ask for apologies for absence?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We've got apologies from Councillor Banbridge of Planet District Council and Roland Guard.
Thank you. Does any member have an interest to declare in relation to any of the items on the agenda? I see no such indication. Thank you. We have to receive and approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of May, which you should have had time to look at. Any comments or proposals to adopt?
Proposal we accept them?
Second. Thank you. Second. Thank you very much. Is that agreed? Yes. Is that an abstention? Yeah, better, yeah.
Okay.
So we come to item 4 on the agenda, which is reports by county and Thanet district councillors, of whom we have just one, I see in the room. So, Councillor Scott, do you wish to put your TDC hat on and make a report?
Yeah. Is this one on? It's working. Crikey. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, could sort of fall under council's reports, but I mean, in relation to the TDC side, I am still currently learning. So I've done quite a lot of the training that's come for it. So hopefully I can be a better district councillor going forwards. But a lot of the things that I've been making notes of is just general sort of reports for the district council bit of bins. I do appreciate and acknowledge that our own operatives are emptying those bins, but that shouldn't be the case. It should be TDC's responsibility to be cleaning those. So I have made those very clear to our operatives. I'm still awaiting an actual list of people to actually contact. So at the moment I'm actually contacting the Director of Operations, which I think he's starting to get a bit bored of me. Other reports have basically been sort of on a district level, just people's rubbish bins, especially with the food waste bins and the recycling sacks that have either gone missing or destroyed, and people are requesting replacements. I've been chasing up for that. I haven't actually passed this over to the town clerk, but I did have a brief discussion with TDC into maybe seeing if we could become a hub where we could actually provide replacement at a cost, but that hasn't been sort of gone forwards. So yeah, that's that on the TDC level, to my knowledge. I don't think anything else has actually been brought to my attention, but any other reports on the town level I will bring up in item 7.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hanscott.
Can I ask our financial councillor a question, please? Can I ask Councillor Lumley Scott a question? Through the chair.
Oh,
About his report.
yes.
Okay. With regards to the bins and some of the pictures that you're being sent, especially the ones along the High Street, Once again, there's bags being shoved in there, and also bags of grass and things like that, so for garden waste. And so they're filling up the bins really quickly. And I know that over the past 4 years, we've discussed this numerous times at the town council about the fact that some flats perhaps don't have access to bins, and so sometimes perhaps they're using the bins, or other people are using the bins to put, large bags of waste in there. Do you know if TDC's got any further with that? And maybe I can, maybe the clerk might know some parts of it.
I mean, it will be something that I did raise essentially with some of the issues, because I think along Station Road there has been instances, I think the ones you're highlighting, where these could be considered businesses maybe, especially with the garden waste and the situations where some businesses could be considered to use that. I mean, without actually knowing the exact flats that may not have the facilities to use so. I can obviously report that to the attention, being the town council bins that are the ones that have been the offenders.
All of the bins along Station Road, and I think we've discussed it, numerous times here, but we still haven't got to the bottom of what's going on with these big bags of rubbish being placed in the bin. So then, actually, when people need to just put a piece of rubbish in, you can't because they're full of rubbish, or, and as I said, even this week was bags of grass.
I mean, I can work alongside the town clerk and maybe just make those that particular road sort of aware, especially with the businesses. And I don't know how we'll go about actually contacting the individual flats. I know they're around the back.
Thank you. I know I have had numerous conversations with TDC about trialling big 1280 bins in the A-ways behind the cooperative. But unfortunately we haven't got any progress with that. I think there has been a change of staff in the interim, so that's probably, I think, where the breakdown in communication, but we can certainly explore that and the service level agreement, which I'm keen to get secured as well.
Is that okay to provide that? Yeah, so I mean, if there's any sort of emails that can be sort of forwarded my way, I'll do my best to sort of just push them. And at the moment, like I say, being sort of fresh and new, the ignorance is bliss, and I can just bother people.
Can I just ask you something to that? We've got the same problem now in St Mildred's Bay. Now the recycling place has gone. There's no tavern there for that. People that are using the beach huts now have got nowhere to use their, they're going to be there all day probably. So I've seen people walking up and just filling it up with household waste or beach hut waste into what is the one council bin that we have there. The other bins also that are there have not, there's no description on what they're to be used for, the TPC bins. They used to have one for dog waste, one for, but two of the three haven't got any lids on the top anyway. And as I say now, people, they pay a rent for the beach huts, so they should have somewhere, but not preferably in the bin that's we've placed there for other reasons, really.
I mean, I can by all means have a word with TDC to possibly provide, especially in the season, the larger bins that they do on Margate, where they provide those. I think before my time, the decision to remove the recycling facilities was because of the encouragement of fly tipping. I think that was dealt with TDC councils at that stage, but I can't really comment anymore on that, I'm afraid. But
Problem is they'll just fly tip elsewhere.
well, yeah, it's always an ongoing issue with that one.
Thank you very much. Do we have a report from the board?
No, sorry, no report this evening from the board.
So we pass to item 6. I have just one meeting to report on myself. I think the others will come up in the course of discussion. The clerk and I went to talk to the people who run the community centre. It was a very useful meeting, and we outlined the ways in which the council would like to support the community centre without raising unrealistic expectations about what we can do. We had a useful presentation of the problems that the centre is facing, but also they are, in a sense, the problems of success, because they have an awful lot of bookings and in some cases don't have the space to respond to all the requests to use the centre. We did discuss a couple of what are maybe shortish term solutions, such as the use of an extra container or two, partly to provide some office space, partly to provide additional space to rent for them, which would be a big help for them. And we said we would be there to support them if they decided to go down that route. We touched on some of the problems related to the role of TDC in the centre, in relation to the park surrounding it. I think all in all, it was just a useful form of making contact, and I think it's something that maybe we should repeat fairly regularly from time to time. I hope some of these initiatives don't simply just disappear in the meeting notes, but that they are actually able to move forward and that we are able to support them in that. Obviously, much grander plans for building a new centre or whatever, they're not for the immediate situation, but it was a useful meeting, I felt. Apart from that, that's very little to report. You might like to know that I have a meeting of the Joint Transport Board this Thursday evening. I'll report back next time, next month on that. I will try to send around an email soon after the meeting. Can't promise which day. Soon after the meeting to let you know the main conclusions. Okay. Thank you. Any reports from councillors? Number 7. Okay, Councillor Warden.
Yeah, just a minor point. This and probably got a few of them. Sorry, Councillor Scott. Bumped into a couple of quite elderly people, disabled ones on a buggy. And 2 points they raised. One is they would like a speed watch done along Westgate Bay Avenue because people drive far too fast down there. And the other point we talked about was the fact that the zebra crossing on Westgate Bay Avenue by St Mildred's Road is a death trap. And I can see nodding heads. Somebody is going to get killed on it, and they're quite concerned it could be them being. One of them walks slowly because he's old, etc. And one of them's on a buggy. And cars coming up from Margate, you can't see people about to cross the road there, and we all know it's going to happen. Somebody's going to get killed there. It was a stupid place to put a crossing. We would put it there with a few screws loose, but it needs moving, removing, and possibly putting nearer to the doctors because that's what it would be used for. Somewhere where it would be safe. We've got local residents feel that it should be moved, and some people were nodding, so most of us seem to agree with that. So that's probably the TDC, it might be a KCC thing to move the zebra crossing, but we need to, residents are saying they want it done, so, and you're involved with Speed Watch, so I thought I'd dump it all on you.
Well, I mean, if I might give a first reply, I don't know if Councillor Scott wants to add it. Yes, firstly, it is I imagine it's a KCC responsibility. Secondly, the crossing is in that place because of the footfall from the lower part of St Mildred's Road towards the shops. Much higher number of people use that side of the road than the church side of the road. Having said that, the visibility and the way it's been constructed is undoubtedly poor to the point of being dangerous, and for me that is the problem. It's a problem of visibility. The second problem is that we're speeding along Westgate Bay Avenue. It horrifies me sometimes. People in large vehicles driving at high speed along there. I don't know what we can do otherwise. One can think of traffic calming measures and so on, but I think speed control is one approach. It may be true indeed that we need other zebra crossings, but I think the first priority should be to ask for that zebra crossing to be made more visible for people coming down Westgate Bay Avenue, and then to tackle the speed problem. I've got councillors. Well, do you want to come back on that first of all, TDC point of view?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously that is a KCC issue, but thinking about it, I mean, I know how it's designed, but especially with, it could be a double barrel for this one, especially with the speed watch, but possibly putting a central island in the middle, like a very small island with what the zebra crossings normally have, the flashing light, in itself will not only be visible for traffic users, but because for these motorists who do tend to speed along, they normally take pride in their cars and whatnot, they have to do nothing but slow down due to not wishing to, well, find their way into this particular central island. With regards to the speed watch, it is something I'll be looking to sort of take on board fully to relieve some of the already overworked town clerk. So we are looking to discuss that training. I'll get around to speaking that with Jill. But those roads have been highlighted. The West Bay Avenue as one of them, and the Linksfield Road as the other one. Lymington Road in the first instance. I know that Linksfield has its own issues. There's numerous roads. It's because of Canterbury Road where people speed into the residential areas, but unfortunately with those, the issue being that we have to be seen visible by 150 metres, and it's not possible by those residential roads because people obviously quite rightly do park, and if we're not visible, we can't utilise or be forceful in that respect. But yes, with the Lymington Road, there's a possibility by the zebra crossing there, and with West Bay, we did have an opportunity, but unfortunately, the resident didn't wish for us to operate outside their premises. So, darn did you do, darn did you do.
Councillor?
Yeah, I think we've discussed this crossing a number of times in meetings before, and which you've probably been in the audience listening to. And one of the things that we were concerned about was the parking going all the way up to the junction. So when you're standing there, if there's a lorry or a van parked there, the visibility is terrible. However, there were these zigzag lines that we thought were going to be in place, that then we were just wondering what the parking restriction actually was. And so the first step could be that we move all the cars back so that there is some visibility to that junction, so as you're driving up, you can see people standing there. That was one of the things that we've been in discussion with KCC about. Two, surely we should have some notices either side to say that there's a zebra crossing coming up, and maybe we could have a little flashy light as well. So I think that's there needs to be more notices about this zebra crossing, and also we really need to get to grips with why the parking can go all the way up to this the start of the crossing.
Councillor White?
Yeah, just come back from what Councillor Scott was saying. Trouble is, if you move the parking, yes, everyone coming that way, you go in, that's would see people standing there, but then you can have half a dozen more cars to park somewhere, or 3 or 4 more cars to park somewhere, and we'll show the parking as it is. So there could be restrictions there, and people just totally ignore them. Should we ever establish if there are restrictions? I don't think there are, but I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, thank you for raising it again. I think we will renew our efforts with KCC maybe to raise both those points. Are you asking for the football? Yes.
Just who's next for the reports.
Okay.
Mine's very brief. It's really on from what Jill had sent an email out saying that the water is now at the pavilion, so those that are using the allotments are able to use the toilet up there without carrying a bucket, so that's quite useful for those. And just to let you know that the AGM of the allotments is on Sunday, which I shall be attending, so I'll be able to pass on that good news to everybody there. So that's brilliant.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, it was just an announcement about a planning application that's coming in. So we're going to be taking it to the committee meeting next Tuesday, but not everybody attends that. So I just wanted to make everybody aware, which I think an email has already gone round by Councillor Micallef, explaining that the presentation that was given by Miles and Barr about a year ago in regards to the church, the Catholic Church, they were going to convert this church in order to use it for their offices. However, we've had a new planning application in for erection of a 4-storey building for mixed-use development comprising of 766.9 square metres of commercial office use on the ground floor, together with 6 one-bedroom and 15 two-bedroom apartments on the first, second and third floor, with associated parking, access and landscaping. So just to give everybody a heads up that are on the planning committee and that we need to look into this carefully, and that also the clerk has sent an email to Miles and Barr to ask them to come and present this change and how they're going to make sure that in a conservation area it's built in a sympathetic way, and also that the trees aren't going to be cut down in that area because they all have tree protection orders on it. So we need to be vigilant as well with regards to the trees around there, that nothing gets cut down before the planning application goes ahead, which I'm sure it won't do. But everybody needs to be vigilant on these type of things. So that's just for people's information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornford.
The clerk and I think the Vice Chair received an email from a resident who completed the tree warden course with David Kerry, and the focus of that was actually on some POs, which is really good. They're also on Thanet Trees, which are well aware of the site, which is a vast site up at St Peter's Church. I heard that from what Chairman said about the community centre. We got some good feedback. They really appreciated your visit and benefited hugely from the information that the clerk passed over. So that's really good for community engagement. I spoke to the clerk and I spoke to Emma Dawson, and I'm a co-opted governor of the Ursuline, and Emma has, as a Kent County councillor, she's done a lot of work on the crossing, the proposed crossing at the top opposite the Ursuline on top of the Canterbury Road there, which is a big issue, accident waiting to happen. KCC admit that their policy of there have been no fatalities, therefore we won't do anything, is faulty. And we're setting up a meeting between the KCC councillors and the head teacher involved at the Ursuline. So there'll be more on that. So thank you, Jill, for that as well. We've had our first HR meeting, and out of that, communication and engagement from all councillors is really important for the effective development of the council. And if everybody could communicate and engage and go to the office, find out what's happening, when things need doing, offer to do them, rather than feel that the clerk is the one who should do it. We can't make decisions, but we can find out the information. And we do need to be proactive, as I say, for the development of the council. That's it.
Thank you.
Let's give it a
Councillor Scott, please.
Okay, I'll keep the town one brief. It was only just to report, we had the Saturday surgery, which was along with Councillor Cornford and myself. We did actually have something that I couldn't do on town level because the resident was outside the boundaries. It was in Garlinge, but it was basically being passed over to our Garlinge ward councillors. But again, it's just we're finding that Saturday surgeries are picking up the traction. I think possibly just needs to be, if anyone is on the social medias, if they can share those, just to really get it out there and hopefully get more people in, because that's it. The whole key of communication. People want to speak to us, let's give them that ability to do so. That they say we're always on social media, or they can't use social media, so therefore we're here. Following straight after that, we did actually, as picked up by Councillor Comfort, we did actually attend a planetary meeting which they put together on the same Saturday by Amelia Gregory. We also do have one of the people here today who was on that. And I have to say, I mean, going as both a town and district, it was very much eye-opening. I'm never going to deny the fact that when it comes to gardening and trees and stuff like that, I'm the most knowledgeable. I've been caught out in the past where I've said primrose tree as opposed to primrose bush. But I've always have understood the actual desire and the need to have that type of vegetation and sort of culture around. I mean, you know, it's surprising that even places that are urbanised like London still actually have potentially more trees than we have here in Thanet. So going there was a very good eye opener, and just to say that we will, if Councillor Comfort wishes to attend again, to carry on sort of representing that. So we took some good feedback from that, and it certainly has been something I've been implementing on the BBC. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Yes.
With regards to the Saturday surgery, do we have one of those boards like Bertie has to stick outside? We do. Oh, I've never seen it. Okay. Do we have two, or like a number?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Clark can give you a training session and then
That's their mini Saturday morning appointment.
That's about, okay. Thank you. I'll repost the Saturday surgery post on my Facebook page if you want to post it.
Can I come back with that for the chair? Just need someone who's for the next one.
That's me.
Okay.
The second one.
Can we move now to the...
I'll say we're going to use this one.
Just very quickly, can I say that's a golden opportunity. If you're doing the surgery, can you please pick the boards up on Friday afternoon for Saturday, so that you put them out rather than the clerk?
I think it might be a help if there was just a simple checklist of things when people do the surgery. I know that you tend to be there every time, but it might just be helpful for others just to have a checklist that would include that. Thank you. Are we ready for the report from the town clerk? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, this is quite short today, but as Councillor Crawford knows, and Councillor McKenna have been undertaking interviews for the last 2 afternoons, and I'm pleased to say that I've appointed a finance assistant and a project assistant. This isn't in addition to the administrator role, this is actually the project assistant replaces the administrator role, so that we've got 2 part-time positions now in the office with myself. So that's, I'll be obviously emailing members with all the names of the successful applicants this week, but that's been very worthwhile, and thank you very much for your support in the office this week, it's very much appreciated. On another issue, I was in a meeting with the local PCSO, and I know, again, we just want to reiterate that any complaints on social media about any antisocial behaviour, anything that residents have concerns about, can you please make sure that these incidents are reported? Because she said she's seeing incidents on social media and she's still not getting those reports through on 101 999. If it's life-threatening, please use 999. If they're non-life-threatening, then it's 101. And also I'll urge anyone that has problems with, it can be up to 40 minutes you're holding on for the 101, actually report through email CSU if it's obviously safe to do so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's good news about the staffing. Public right to speak. Sorry, did you want to speak?
No, we do have something else on the list.
Thank you. Just one more thing. With the additional person, actually part-time person, I think we're going to take the opportunity to actually extend the opening hours, because in the afternoons currently the office isn't open, and I think that would be a really good opportunity once we have 2 people, we can actually have maybe 2 hours opening in the afternoon in addition to the 3 hours in the morning to give residents that continued service for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any requests to speak?
No requests.
So we move on to point 10, where we have now had a series of annual returns. I hope you have had a chance to look through these, and I ask the clerk to introduce.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so part of the annual return, it's not just the accounting statements, but it's very important as well. We look at the risk assessment and the management scheme. I've updated these with a few additions, which you'll probably be noticing that the action insurance cover slightly increased with our policy last year. And also, obviously, with the pension in place, that's another risk that we need to have on here. Volunteers as well, now we've got a volunteer policy and we're getting more people volunteering with the council, that's important. So yeah, I've just updated with the current list that we have in place to make sure that we as much we're covered for the risks that we are aware of. But if, obviously, if members have anything else that they think needs to be added, please let me know.
I will draw your attention to the point on data protection. It now seems a very long time since the new regulation was introduced just a year ago, but I think it's important that that those who already took notice and learned about the new data protection rules regularly managed to just give themselves a bit of a refresher. That those who weren't aware of the discussions at the time and the rules that we need to follow really follow it. Well, for 2 reasons. One is it's good practice. I think it's quite right that we are careful about the way in which we use people's personal data. The other is if we get it wrong, we get a very hefty fine and we don't want that. So I would just underline that. Does anyone wish to ask any questions about the risk assessment, or can we vote on it? Councillor Nicholas.
I was basically saying that I'm nominating, proposing it, that's it. I couldn't remember the word.
So proposed by Councillor McAuliffe, seconded by Councillor O'Connor. All in favour? Thank you. So the next is the statement for internal control.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, yeah, so this is another one of those annual reviews that's very important. It actually scopes out our responsibility, the purpose of the internal control system that we have, and the actual requirements that we practice at the council. And as the financial officer and the town clerk, obviously, this makes sure that you have somebody in place, which is me, and also our payments, that clearly defines how we manage and make sure that our financial transactions are secure. Again, we've got the internal audit process, reviews, external audit, and then just covers the review of effectiveness, just as a statement. And this is for, if members agree, for the chair and myself to sign today to say that we actually comply with our statement of internal control.
Councillor Crawford.
Not proposed that we accept these.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you. Next we come to the governance statements, which well, cover some of the same ground, but it's a different kind of statement. Maybe you explain what it precisely does.
Thank you. So this is our formal annual governance return, which we send up to the external auditor. So before we can actually agree the accounting statements that you'll see, these governance statements are quite important because they actually say that we agree that we've actually carried out these 9 statements. So I need to read each one to you separately and then ask for a vote and that you agree the answer is yes to these statements. Okay, thank you. We have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year for the preparation of the accounting statements. Yes means that the authority has prepared its accounting statements in accordance with the accounting audit regulations. Are you happy for me to, read each one first and then yeah, thank you. If you've got any queries in between, please say so. Number 2, we've maintained an adequate system of internal control, which is what we've just signed to the statement. Measures designed to prevent any tech fraud and corruption and reviewed its effectiveness. Answering yes means we've made proper arrangements and accepted responsibility for safeguarding the public money and resources in its charge. Number 3, we took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. Yes means we've done what is the legal power to do and have complied with proper practices in doing so. Number 4, we provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the Accounts and Audit Regulations. Answering yes means during the year we gave all persons interested the opportunity to inspect and ask questions about the authority's accounts. Number 5, we carried out an assessment of the risk facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. Answering yes is considered and documented the financial and other risks it faces and dealt with properly. Number 6, we maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. This means, yes, we've arranged for a competent person, independent of the financial controls and procedures, to give an objective view on whether internal controls meet the needs of this smaller authority. Number 7, we took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. Answering yes is meaning responded to matters brought to our attention by the internal and external audit. Number 8, we considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and where appropriate have included them in the accounting statements. Answering yes means we've disclosed everything that we should have about our business activity during the year, including events taking place after the year end if relevant. And number 9 doesn't actually apply to us because we don't have trust funds. Thank you.
Thank you. So this applies to the year ending 31st of March 2019. And it applies to what, I guess, what we knew at that date.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any questions? Yes.
I propose yes to them all.
The process.
Anyone like to second?
Thank you.
Thank you. So all those in favour of answering yes to each question?
Thank you.
Abstentions?
Abstention, because I wasn't councillor in that year, so I thought legally anyway.
Thank you very much. And then, which one do I sign?
Yeah. So this was pretty I'll fill that out. Yes, on there. Yeah. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have the accounting statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so last but not least is to approve the accounting statement for 2018-19. As you see, it's been populated on the copy that you've got in front of you, and I dated it the 29th of May. I won't read all the figures to you because you've obviously had this for a number of days, but it's very important that you let me know if you agree these figures. Obviously, we've done this with our RBS new Rialto system, and the internal auditor has been in April and confirmed that I'm correct. So if members agree, we can have a resolution, please, that these are received. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor O'Connor, you wish to
I was just
propose?
going to propose them.
Sorry, the nod is not sufficient.
I'll second.
Thank you. Seconded. All those in favour, please. Yeah. I'm sorry?
I just really understand it's and it's all
Yes, okay. We move to the financial statements, financial reports, item 14, which are the regular reports, the reconciliation, payments report, trials, and receipts and payments, expenditure. Any questions on any of those, and maybe we can vote on them on the block afterwards. Councillor Scott.
I've just got two questions. Just for clarification, we put aside £1,212 and supposedly for refuse disposal. And I was just wondering, and £80 being spent. I was just wondering what that money is going to be spent on, because I assumed that all of our refuse was going to be free at TDC, or whether it's changed.
Could you indicate which statement it was?
So it is on the cost centre report,
All right.
budget heading of the 30th of 4th, 2019, and it's line 5060, refuse disposal. We spent £80 and we've got just over £1,000 to spend on refuse, and I was just wondering why we're spending money on that.
Okay.
Thank you. It's not the actual refuse service, it's actually provision for black sacks for the bins that we've got. Obviously, we need to, yeah.
So it's just black sack. Okay, thank you. And then line 7010, subscriptions and membership. We only put aside 435, but we spent 1,300 already. And I was just wondering what that was that we didn't account for.
So we're still on the same report.
Yeah, just the next page.
Oh, sorry.
Line 7010, subscriptions and memberships. And we thought we might spend 435, but actually we spent quite a bit more. And I was just wondering what that is that we
So the £1,300 today is for our Calc and NAC subscription that we've actually, so although we've budgeted for the year, it's an annual subscription, so we've already paid it for the year, that 1,300.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor.
Okay, it looks like actually the budget needs to be moved from legal and professional fees because we put it more into the legal and professional fees, so I think it needs a budget bond to cover those two.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so we can do
Do a budget
yeah,
bond so that it matches.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, so we propose in a second that we accept all four reports. Proposed, seconded by Councillor Corbett. All those in favour? Abstention? Yes. Thank you very much. So we move to the proposed steering group for events, tourism and improvements. I hope you've had time to look at this. Does anyone want to have a bit of time to glance through them before we go to debate? Yes, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yes, okay, and I guess Councillor Nightingale
Yeah.
would appreciate it. So, Lisa, have 2 minutes?
Not on a Tuesday morning, it's not.
The kids are there.
Do you want to go through it maybe section by section? Any comments on the role of the steering group? First of all, page 1. Yes, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I thought the build, investigate and identify events for a full year calendar for the town sounds like a really good idea, but just to clarify, it's for residents and tourists to view on the website or TDC website. It's kind of like putting together a calendar of events that are in Westgate, but not particularly events that the town council are organising, but all events. So we could go on the website and go, oh, we're going to Westgate, what's on this week? That kind of thing. So it might be useful to, I just kind of wrote in there for resident tourists to view on the website and TDC website, so it's clear that it's not just town council events, but all events in the town. I thought that was quite a useful thing.
Can I just come back on that?
Yes.
So don't forget, in November 2019, we registered a Visit WestgateOnSea.co.com website, and so the idea would be to basically build a calendar into that website, and that website would be more community-based, will allow the community to put stuff on. But the idea is that the whole calendar would appear on that site and be populated. It would also allow each of the individual groups to see when a week is already taken with a major event and plan accordingly. So my proposal would be to basically build that onto that new website, link it into Visit Thanet, and link it into the county website.
Cool. So that little kind of extra bit may be clarified,
Yeah.
and then this will include events already running by community groups or by community or by groups other than the town council,
Yeah.
just to make it clear that it's not sort of just all about town council events. I just think that would be helpful.
Okay. Any other questions? I've just an additional point on that. But it says a full year calendar, I assume it doesn't mean it's limited to 1 year.
No.
So it's important to have a perspective, so
Rolling.
it needs to be forward-looking
So
as
let
well.
me add that in as well.
Okay, on membership, are there any comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Scott.
Well, I don't know why it needs to be limited to 2 town councillors. It depends who wants to be on there, so I think we can be flexible about that. But that's obviously when we're talking about who might want to be on it, then we can see how many people want to be on it, and then we can maybe see what that number could be. But obviously we don't want it dominated by town councillors, it's supposed to be a steering group, a community steering group. But I don't see why it needs to be limited to just 2 councillors.
So can I suggest that we change that to being minimum of 2 town councillors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the membership, I mean, it says it's open to the public, but possibly if maybe myself or Samantha or even our councillor, Ray Wood, additional councillor can be sat on that, but the students quite viable in that. But if there's any stipulations that we can't.
Not sure about yeah, I think more seriously, I think, yeah, we could look at that on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, the initial intention was not to overburden the group with a number of councillors and to create a space where local community groups could play their role and move the thing forward, rather than having a rather heavy involvement of councillors where they would expect the council to take the lead. Yes, Councillor Conley.
Yeah, I thought that the idea of the steering group was the steering group, and obviously the working groups would be then the people that were interested in that particular area. So, for instance, at the moment you obviously have pancake days that are interested in that, and you go on to the working group that would be involved in that, including anybody like the district councillors if they were really interested in that type of thing. I just remember Potlinger as, as a councillor, because that was a working group that they had an interest and felt they could add something to.
Okay, fine, Councillor.
Yeah, so I was going to say that was the original idea of the main steering group only having 2 councillors, was so that it wasn't over heavy with councillors, and it actually encouraged the community groups to actually take part. From that, then when we do working parties, then all councillors can volunteer to be a part of a different working party, and that is down to our effective communication and sharing the minutes from those meetings and basically saying, does anybody want to get involved with the WWRA, who's hosting this? There's an event on Ursuline, does anybody want to join the working party for that, etc. So maybe I can redefine slightly the difference between the steering group membership and the working party membership.
I think maybe we could hold off until we know how many people want to be on this. I don't know who other
There's
town council.
4.
Oh, okay.
Just to answer that, the challenge is that speaking to the groups that we've spoken to so far, which have been WOSCA, the WWRA, the Inner Wheel, the Rotary Club, the youth group at the URC, and the Christmas lighting crew, they're all saying that they'd be happy to take part in this type of group, but it needs to be a daytime group. Because they only meet during the daytimes for their planning. So the challenge will be councillors having availability during the day to actually be part of the group, and that's the challenge that we have. Because we need the consistency of the councillors on the steering group. But the positive thing is that we have got already 8 groups that want to be part of this.
Yes, I thought, sorry, when it says representatives from all existing organisations within the town, it seems somewhat ambitious and maybe too generous.
So I'll answer that by saying that we need to be generous, because the idea is that we are helping and supporting these community groups, and that we want them to basically work on events to basically make Westgate the #1 destination. And the idea is that through this, individual groups can actually hook up with each other. I had a meeting recently where the Inner Wheel wanted to do a project with the WWRA. And so I would hope that the steering group would inspire more cross-working across different organisations. So that's why being generous and open it to all, effectively people will end up breaking up into their own working parties.
I think it's just the word in it.
Sorry, Clark.
Sorry.
Thank you. And I would like to reiterate as well that this will share resources, because currently the town council hasn't got the resources to put on the big events that we're trying to do, and it's falling on the minimum amount of people who are actually putting in all the time, and I just think we can't sustain that. We've done it, but it's not something we can sustain.
So if I change the word all to just leaving it to from existing organisations with the town, does that seem more palatable?
Representatives from all existing
So take
organisations
out
will
the
be
word.
invited to join.
Yeah, or we take out the word all and then it reads representatives from existing organisations, which leaves it open.
Well, I think there are 2 issues there. I'm not quite sure of the meaning of existing organisations. Does that mean that no new organisation?
No, so we actually have...
Join. I mean, if I want to form the Westgate Liberation Army and apply for a combat course,
Yes!
would I count as a organisation? I don't know. Councillor Corning.
Can do so.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, because the Westgate Collaborative are trying to set up new organisations which don't actually exist at the moment, so they may feel that they've been excluded.
Yeah, and that, yeah, okay, so we'll do existing and new.
WLG.
Okay.
For the record, I am not in the process of this. Okay, no more comments on membership? Different defining roles? Maybe we can take that the roles of relationships. Yes, Councillor Scott.
So this goes with also the finance. At this moment in time, because we didn't know the steering group was set up, we've allocated certain money for different projects. So we've allocated money for the Westgate Boom, the Westgate Day, and Pancake Day, things like that. So that used to be under the committee, or that would be given to the committee and they'd be managing that, and the working party would be managing it. So under this one, the clerk will be managing all of that for each event. So I was just wondering how that's going to be managed with this being a steering group.
So it's actually going to fall under the small grant scheme. So the events and tourism money that was already budgeted for every event that goes on, because we are effectively not going to throw any events. The idea of the steering group is that we're there to help other groups put on events. We've already had one organisation asking to take one of our events from us, and so they would basically put in a grant proposal to the council under the paperwork that was created to apply for money. So we wouldn't effectively then going forward be budgeting money to events and tourism. We would be using the grant scheme.
Okay, so how will then the finances that we've put aside for the Westgate Day and the Westgate in Bloom be organised now?
Yes, RFO.
Thank you. So we've already got the budget for this year. That was obviously approved. So obviously we've already got the events we've planned. This is the Westgate Day, the pancake races for next year. Obviously that budget that we've got set aside, if we have another community group come forward and actually take some expense of the pancake races, that can be then kept for the budget for the next year. So it's not that we've set in stone that we have to spend money on the pancake races. There was an actual amount, 7,500 allocated for events and tourism. So, obviously, we're in a position where a community group says, actually, we're going to take that event, then that would be an expenditure that we can use in another area for events and tourism.
So, if I may, just so the Westgate Day, the expenses for that is basically organised between you and Councillor Page and anybody else that's involved in the Westgate Day, and that's just kept as some kind of small working party, as it were.
No, basically what happened, the big expenditure for Westgate Day is the stage, which actually went to the Finance and General Purchase Committee for a decision. So it's not that we're, making a big financial decision for an event. If there's anything over my remit, obviously that goes to the Finance and General Purposes. Every small expenditure I've got delegation for, I can sign off.
Okay, so this group won't have any money allocated to it, or if a community group wants to access money, they do it through the small grant scheme, and then they're responsible for spending that money and reporting back how they spent it. Thank you.
Okay. So, what are you having, Councillor Darcy?
Yeah, I was just thinking, can we envisage the possibility that we may have groups conflicting different priorities? I was thinking of things like maybe aiming for the same end, but things like what's happened in the past with Help the Aged and Age Concern had different and had similar priority, but they worked for years and years in conflict with one another. And I was just wondering, does how is someone able to define what's right and what's
So, if I can come back to that, in this actually states that the groups can continue to run their own programmes separately as an organisation, and it doesn't need to be brought into the steering group. So in some cases where members have conflicting, they'll still manage their projects separately. The idea of this group is to try and get more people to work collaboratively. So it might be that, say for example, the WWRA is doing an event and they want to run that in Solus. They wouldn't do that under the steering group. We would give them advice on where to get grants, how to PR, promote it, etc. But then they might then want to get involved in something else. So, for example, the WWRA might want to take the pancake races. But the groups can still work in Solus. What we would like them to do is give us an overview of what they are working on in Solus so we can add it to the calendar and publicise it, and then ensure under my role of PR and marketing that we maximise the advertising for them for the football for the town.
But if they were applying for grants,
Yeah.
which might conflict between the two groups, how would we deal with
So
that?
that's down to the same process of the grants application. As far as I'm aware, we don't have in any terms of reference that we can't fund a grant application for two different groups with the same agenda. We take every application on the basis of merit there and then at the time. What we would hope to be doing under this group is actually steering people towards the community grants that are very available out there, and TDC and KCC grants, etc. So rather than basically just focusing on what we can do as a local council, we can literally go, actually, do you know that you're entitled to this lottery grant, or you can apply towards this foundation, etc. And then ensuring that whatever they're doing adheres to the licences and the rules and the regulations of the town.
Yes, Councillor Scott.
Just to clarify, the community grants, if they apply for the community grant, and you just said making sure that they apply to the licences, will the community grant be accessed through the town council, or will it be through their own group?
I'm confused, sorry.
So say if a group of people got together from the working party of the steering group and they wanted to access a grant, will that grant be accessed through the town council, or will it be accessed as a separate entity for their whatever they're working on?
So ideally, if it's a cross-promotional group, it makes sense for it to be managed by the council, and then the money basically dealt out in exchange for receipts. Because it's hard to basically then do an application that's across different groups. If it's an individual group doing it themselves, then obviously they'd be making an application under their own steam, and basically the money would be going directly to them.
So if they made a community grant, and then we have a pot of money set aside for what they want to do, we're kind of managing a grant, and whose time will that take up with regards to that kind of thing?
So effectively,
Well, I was going to say, effectively, what would happen is that somebody in that group that wanted to, that working group, would take on responsibility for getting into that. So, for instance, myself, if I joined a group, I might say what they're applying for a grant and that. So what I would do is check some receipts and liaise with the money and do it. So it would be, as you said, a working group, you would have nominated people to be nominated.
Yeah, so I think that's something that's missing from here, that if a working group is set up and they want to bring money in from outside agencies, that a finance coordinator needs to be nominated within that working group and needs to work directly with the clerk.
So just to add on to what Pauline says, under the RBS system, we're able to create codes for all individual projects. So for example, you'll see in the balance in sheet, the £10,000 that's come in, there will be a code created for Westgate and Bloom lottery money, and everything is then apportioned to that. So the RBS system will do a large proportion of the work for us. So I'll add in finance coordinator within the working party section.
Yes.
Thank you. And of course, it'll be a perfect opportunity for our new finance assistant to get the team.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you for those comments and questions. I do think it's important that we do remember that the money which comes through this council is fully accountable, and that we don't have any grey areas. And I think it's important too that people who are on the steering group and indeed in the working groups are conscious that they're within the framework of the local council. Well, and we kind of moved on from those relationships to working groups. Are there any other comments on the rest of the terms of no, I mean, so, no, actually I'm finding this very helpful. Thank you, Councillor Scott.
Sorry, so it's expected that all steering group members abide by the principles and practice of the Town Council Code of Conduct, including declarations of interest. So at the first meeting, they have like a form and they sign to say, yes, I'm abiding by those principles. Yeah.
And I think now that you've just brought that up, I'll also add into that that it's agreeable with everybody's social media policy.
Absolutely, yeah, that's very important.
You could put in and will sign to say that, to declare that they will.
Data protection.
Yeah. I think we were bringing those tonight, but we forgot.
So that was within this. It's not. Is it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Go on, Hannah, one more.
Yeah, sorry.
Very good.
It says decisions made by the steering group should normally be by consensus. What's the normally? It's either should be or...
I can take normally.
So decisions by the steering group
Should be by
will
consensus.
be, are made by consensus at the steering group meetings.
Cool. Not believing that's the last one.
Okay. Someone like to propose that we adopt these? Or do you want to come back to a subsequent meeting? Sorry, do we adopt these now?
Well, the difficulty is we actually have a scheduled meeting in 2 weeks' time. So we would end up having to do an extraordinary meeting to approve these if we don't do them tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so is Councillor Crawford, are you proposing?
Yes, I am, especially bearing in mind changes to terms of reference. Because this is a new thing, and if we need to make changes, they've been made, but it's easy to make changes.
Yeah, okay.
So I propose that we adopt these.
Yes, I was going to say.
Yeah, is everyone in favour? Abstaining?
Did we adopt them with the minimum 2 councillors? It was a change for the minimum 2 councillors. But obviously, he can make it.
I think it would be good if the revised terms of reference would be
Oh, sorry,
circulated.
Yeah.
The minutes of the meeting. Great, thank you very much. I really wish this venture well. So we now move on to representation on the Thanet Area Committee. Just to explain, the Thanet Area Committee is a committee of the parish and town councils within the Thanet district. We meet on a more or less quarterly basis. The function of the committee has been under some discussion recently, and some members would like to see it become more of a support to what is called a forum, which is a meeting between the Thanet District Council and the parish and town councils in the area. In the past, I think Councillor Kingman went along when he was chair, and since then I have been, or in my absence, Councillor Page when she was vice chair. So we're asking if you agree that myself and Councillor McAuliffe could be our representatives on that committee. Yes, Councillor Scott.
Second.
Thank you. Second. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
The list of something on 15. We're supposed to agree the membership
Oh,
of the steering group.
Well, membership to be debated. I thought the membership was part of the document actually. which
No,
is
because
already-
we agreed who's on our...
Because we have a meeting coming up.
We didn't at the AGM. So at the AGM we agreed what councillors are on different groups as a town council.
Oh, that kind of membership. I see.
Who's actually on it.
Shall I just cover? So at the moment, myself, Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Nightingale, and Councillor Matthew Scott put ourselves forward for that steering group membership. Obviously, we need consistency. This is going to be a daytime group, so we need to ensure that those people that are going to stay on this group as the consistent members need to be available during the daytime to keep the consistency. However, that doesn't stop people in working groups arranging separately with the individual groups as to whether they can or cannot do an evening meeting. But the moment, the people that we've spoken to are all insistent on a daytime steering group. So it basically is down to the 4 nominating people to agree whether or not they're available for the steering group on a daytime basis.
What?
Yeah,
Councillor Johnson.
yeah, I can make time with the day.
And I can also.
Yeah.
Councillor Scott, Councillor Nightingale?
Generally I can, but I don't think that's the basis on which I'd want to be participating in a way, just because I was I think it should be open to whoever, really. If there's a limited number, I don't think it should be decided on who's available during the day, really, because I don't necessarily think you're going to get a representative, because there must be many groups that have meetings in the evenings.
There's 1 or 2, but
Well,
we haven't
1 or
got-
2 that we know
but
about.
we haven't had agreement for them to join the steering group.
Okay, Councillor Scott?
Yes, okay, I mean, having sat on the events and tourism, I've always wanted to be very much part of Westgate in that respect, and I felt that I put my 2 cents in, and especially it helped with regards to the putting together and marshalling and being even part of events that have not even been run by the Town Council. So, I mean, obviously, based on the grounds of what apparently the steering group is going forwards, it puts me out by default, which unfortunately saddens me because I want to very much be part of Westgate and any sort of things that do put Westgate in a great light. So, yes, I mean, I have just been informed by us why there could not be potential for a daytime and evening steering group. So, because obviously to be held to ransom completely by the daytimes. I mean, for me, I'm going to take a step back and say, well, I'll be very interested to see how much involvement we do get from the outside organisations, because if there is fraudulence on that, then I don't want to be the person who jeopardises that by insisting on evening interviews, but meetings. So that's me.
Okay, Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think most of us want to take an interest in, and I've certainly marshalled at most events and enjoyed marshalling most events, and I wasn't on the Events and Tourism Committee all the time. I've been limited. It doesn't actually stop us being involved with the town, I don't feel. Well, the only thing it actually stops us being is, you know, involved in the steering. However, I think if you've got 2 councillors that can always attend, I think that should be those ones will, and maybe ad hoc on site because Councillor Nightingale, maybe he could come through, but at least we have 2 Pacific councillors, and if, you know, Councillor Nightingale and Councillor Scott feel that they've got time off when a meeting's being held and want to join that particular steering group, maybe it could be open to them, and that way we can do that. But obviously you know, I think the feedback on this particular steering group is going to be important to let us know what working groups are available for us to join. I think that's it. You know, I do want to join some sort of events, like most people. That's what I'm in Westgate for, to help with, you know, events and things like that. So I think that's going to be the communication part of it, I think.
So, yes, okay, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I was just wondering what groups can't do evenings?
So we've got one of the church groups that what can't do
They
evenings.
can't do evenings.
So WASCA have said no to evenings. The WASCA, which is the community centre, the Christmas lighting crew, which did a big Christmas event, are not available in the evenings. WWRA already have their own evening meetings, so would rather do daytime meeting. The United Reformed Church Youth Group can only do a daytime meeting because that's when they work. Who else? WWA, WASCA, the Inner Wheel and the Rotary Club, both they said that they've got their own meetings in the evening, they don't want to add to them, so they would come to a daytime meeting.
It makes it a bit tricky because then if we're going to have a working party, are they going to say that they can't meet in the evenings for a working party? Because obviously, you know, if then the other people, like I can't meet during the daytime very often, so if I wanted to join a working party, are we going to say, oh, the day, can only be in the daytime as well.
That's going to be something that we're going to have to learn as we go along, because we can't really predict that.
Councillor O'Connor?
I mean, we're saying daytime, but obviously that doesn't exclude weekends, presumably, simply because a lot of these events are at weekends. So I'm assuming that we're just talking, so somebody might be having a meeting on Saturday morning, like you have your, the things or so. That's the kind of.
Well, can we not have the steering group then on a Saturday?
Sorry,
Thank you. All I'd like to add really is, I think, because obviously the community groups are quite interested and quite keen to get involved, I think this is something we can certainly go forward with and trial, give it an opportunity, and then if we think it's not working, it's something we can revisit. But I think we genuinely do need, because the Events and Tourism Committee, although some of us did a lot of work on that, and it's the resources that we've got limited to do these events, and if we want to have more events in the town, unfortunately we've got to work more closely with the other community groups to get that enthusiasm going and get things moving, because we just haven't got the resources on the town council to do it all, and it's a shame, but that's the fact.
Yes, Councillor.
Just to come back on that, I felt that was aimed at me, and like I said, I'm more than happy. Obviously, I'd like to be part of it, but I understand that if these community groups are so involved and there is forward momentum on that, I totally support that. So, that is what's going forwards, and therefore, that's why I've chosen to step down based on I can't commit anyway. I have committed to the events and tourism in the past and never missed a meeting for that. But obviously, if these are in the daytime and these said groups can only meet in the daytime, then I'll be very interested to see how many do actually attend and how frequently. And if it is a success, then why would I even want to stop the forward momentum now?
Well, we've had Councillor McAuliffe and Councillor Donaldson saying they can go with the current structure. When we discussed membership, we decided that it will be at least 2 or minimum of 2. Not quite sure which wording. So, as I understand the consensus is that we would have those 2 councillors on the steering group from the start, but if others can or wish to join in, that door would still be open. Councillor Wine.
That's what I was going to say. We've come down to the 42, and I, self-employed, can do most, a lot of the time during the day I can do. Might have some reason I can't do it sometimes, because I have an appointment Sunday, but on the whole I can do a fair bit of daytime, so I'm happy to jump onto this matter.
Okay, thank you. Does that suit Councillor Nightingale, Councillor Scott? The door is still open to an involvement.
It's not down to me, is it? I'm just a member of the group, so yeah, that's the way it is, that's the way it is, isn't it?
I'm saying I'm happy to jump on board.
Well, can we leave it with that then, that those 2 councillors, Donaldson and McAuliffe, are sort of full-timers, as it were, and other councillors are welcome to come in and support it.
Sorry, it's my understanding that they were wanting to put themselves forward based on these terms. So are we voting for who would like probably 2 councillors at the moment? Or if this being opened up to 3 councillors? Because in the terms at the moment it stipulates the 2.
We said minimum. Sorry, I was going to say.
That's first and then Councillor.
So if all of you want to attend a steering group, please feel free.
Yes, I was going to say the agendas of the times of the meetings will be out, and I think if it happens to be a day that I'm not working or you're not working or whatever, and we would like to attend that particular steering group, then I think if we would just let you know that we will be attending on that particular day.
Is that okay? Councillor Scott?
Just to make it clear that really in order for decisions to be made in a group, you need to be a member. You can't just come along to a meeting and then vote at that meeting. So if you want to be a member, you need to kind of be a member. You can't just turn up as and when and then have voting rights. So you need to make it clear who's actually a member of the steering group and who has voting rights and who is coming to just observe on that day. Just in case you could end up getting yourself into tying yourself in lots of people turn up for a particular vote or something, which it won't happen, but just to make it clear who's actually a member and who's not. So with council wanting to put yourself forward, are you putting yourself forward as a member or as somebody to turn up as and when?
On that basis, as a member would make more sense, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy. If that needs a vote, then have a vote on it, but yeah, I'm happy to come in.
That's just one.
Just to say that I would be happy to attend as an observer, just to come through and keep the membership as tight as possible for all things, but yeah.
Yeah. The terms of reference do provide for regular reports back to council, and I would expect that such reports would include a section on membership to indicate who had been accepted as members.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we as council are aware of who are members of these groups. We should see in these reports who's actually members. But in terms of the council, is people comfortable with that? If we back like 3, as I read it. Okay, yeah. Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Councillor Keller proposes, Councillor Scott seconds. All those in favour, or abstentions? Yes.
Thank you.
Work experience. Well, Councillor Cornford. Who's going to lead off? Not or Councillor Cornford?
Thank you, Chairman. So at the Human Resources Committee, we had a brief overview of a proposal for work experience at the West Cashel Town Council. This would be proposed to start from September with the new academic year. And I felt it important to get this before members prior to the end of term in July, because obviously any school that wants to be involved will need time to get the things in place necessary. So you've got a little report that I did, it's got an overview about the role, and Councillor Kelly kindly helped out as well. We've got some guidance notes together, and it's quite in-depth and quite detailed, and there's a little checklist at the end as well. And obviously that would be something that we could actually enhance and go forward with the Town Council, because it would actually give us the opportunity to have young people getting to know the Town Council, which I think is a really positive thought. Thank you.
So just to add on to what Jill said, we actually have already been approached by East School to run a work experience programme with us, which is the Ursuline. And it would actually be very good to be able to work in conjunction with the Westgate School. We're currently doing a couple of projects with King Ethelbert's, but it'd be kind of nice to be able to do something with the local school, such as Ursuline. So hence the fact creating the guidance notes and the overview. The view on doing this programme is that each of the students would actually have an interview with the council. They would come in and give them interview experience, but it would also give us the basis to actually understand more about their interests and likes and things that they want to do with the future, and we would try and tailor their work experience with the council to actually meet that career goal requirement. We have specifically stipulated that this is not somebody to come in and do photocopying and general admin. This is very much about getting involved in the day-to-day council, coming to meetings, coming to council meetings, and each individual will walk away having completed a project within the time of the council. So I think that there's things that we can learn from the younger generation, like such as social media and things like that. But there's a lot of things that we can give them in terms of confidence, in terms of awareness, etc., of what a real working environment is like.
Yes, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I mean, look, this totally welcoming. I mean, with the sort of political climate really today, any youths taking any sort of interest, even right down to grassroots, council levels, would be great. And I think this will be an excellent venture. I mean, if this was something that I could learn as a teenager, as opposed to working in Argos and watching TV's broke. Yeah, so this is great. So well done for those who are involved and set that together.
I must say, it's a proposal I strongly welcome. I think the more we can do to offer a wider horizon to the young people here and give them some understanding of what we do and foster their interest, channel their interest, it's something I think could be very valuable. Councillor Crawford.
As a governor, I have to have a DBS check. Please check. Does that mean councillors would have to?
Good.
Thank you. I have actually still got a current DBS check, but obviously that is something that we'd have to, any councillor that would be involved in this would undertake that. Yes, you're correct.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, with regards to this, I think that we need to go about it with caution because I think it may take quite a lot of time to set up, to run, and then once the individual is in the town council, it will take up a lot of time of the staff in the offices. So I'm just wary of Jill's time running this. I know that Councillor Micallef wants to be involved as well. So he's in the office, you're in the office a couple of days a week, aren't you? But I'm just concerned that it will take quite a lot of time to set up. And once that student's in the office, they're going to take up a lot of time in the office. I think it's a good idea overall, but I would urge caution, especially at this point in time with what's going on. I know that it might be a bit further down the line, but we can't predict what's going to be happening in a few months' time. And from my point of view, I'd like to see this back on the table in a few months' time rather than making a decision now about it. Because of our climate at this moment in time with regards to our move and things like that, and confidentiality.
Okay, Councillor Micallef and then Councillor.
Just to come back on it, the reason that we've brought it forward now is that it does require quite a lot of work, pre-advanced work. So my proposal is that we work closely with Ursuline in developing it. They need to look at the documentation as well. There'll be feedback from them. There's feedback from the sixth form head and the school, etc. So it'll take several months to actually get to that point. So the reason that I wanted to put it on the agenda now is that if we don't start work on it now in the background, then we're potentially leaving it till the last minute to try and put something together. And that we've been approached by a school that hasn't been the easiest to get contact to work with. So rather than discounting it now, I'd like to be able to work on it on the basis that we may, during the last quarter of the year, work with one or two students rather than the whole of the year. But we need to basically be working on this on the background now. Especially if we need to do criminal checks because they can take between 3 and 6 months depending on the individual. And also, just quickly, and also the idea is that this doesn't just fall to Jill. Each child will have a mentor, so they will have somebody that will mentor them through the programme. And so that will be decided on the individual. So the idea of doing the interview with each individual child is if somebody comes in and says, well, my interest is social media, then we're going to develop that work experience program to end up with a project on social media. So that could be to get up our followers, to recreate our Facebook, to do something on Instagram, etc. So then that mentor would probably be myself, because PR and marketing. It may be that they come on board and they're very interested in finance, so then their mentor would be Pauline, but then they would work with the finance assistant in the office.
Yeah, just to clarify, generally the work experience is usually 2 weeks of a year, is it? Something like that?
Yeah.
So at the most you would possibly be only using 4 weeks, you'd have two students a year probably. Certainly for the first year you would only expect one. So we're not talking about work experience as in that, we're talking about, you know, the school's work experience as opposed to having an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So that's a completely different thing. So it's only 2 weeks of the year that we're really doing it. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, with regard to the DBS check, that is a good idea to get that done anyway, because we're going to start having volunteers and things like that, I suppose, in the future. So that's something to, you know, for me to agree on, that the DBS check for all the councillors and things, because we're going to have volunteers in the future, is something that we can move forward on. But I just, from what the issues have been recently, and from the time pressures on the office at the moment, I feel that this could be quite a lot of work. So that's my view on it. And I just think this is the wrong time to start up this kind of thing. And maybe that my suggestion is to bring this back on the table in the future when we know what the issues are with regards to the confidentiality, things that I can't speak about at the time. So that's all.
Do you propose that as a motion, that we come back to this in a number of months' time?
Well, that's my idea, but other people might want to discuss before I put a proposal on the table.
I mean, again, I suppose it's just down to, for those who are involved, if they feel this is something they can actually undertake, then, and they're confident that this can be put forward with the additional situations of what's happening with our town council, then, you know, I support it on those grounds, and I will support it where I can, when I can, and that's how I feel. If we feel as a town council and those involved with the initial setting up with the HR committee, it is achievable.
Okay.
Then that's my decision.
Okay.
So I can just come back to Councillor Scott. That is the general idea. So we would hope that the right student would basically maybe shadow you as a district councillor as part of what they do in their work experience programme, etc. So it's not falling on one individual. There'll probably be several individuals involved within a week. So it might be they sit in on an HR committee. It might be that they sit in on a meeting with myself and Martin and somebody else. That it's about basically facilitating the right programme for the right individual. So I think that for a young person to be able to say, well, actually, I've been to Thanet District Council and seen the inner workings, or, you know, I've understood a finance package system that I've never been exposed to, or, you know, I've seen PR and marketing, at first hand, and basically worked on that, is a huge bonus. And I think, as Councillor Connor said, it's initially 2 weeks of the year. So it's not that we're basically creating a massive programme taking in 20 kids.
To keep us brief, but
I
Councillor
think,
Nightingale.
for me, one of the things I've had people with work experience, for me, I think it's the description of it being work experience that I think is the issue, really. Young people, I think, generally speaking, would not view a couple of weeks as sort of work experience, in my experience, of having them with me, you know, because I think what we're talking about is usually for a longer period of time for a start. I think we need to sort of say this is some sort of introduction to a working life sort of thing. Because I think if we call it work experience, generally speaking, people are lined up, people are lined up with something that they see as a future form of employment.
Yeah, so to go back and just answer that quickly, the work experience title actually comes from the sixth form coordinators at the Ursuline School. So they actually call it at the school work experience, and that's why what we've created this title work experience is following the description from Ursuline.
Councillor Cornford.
I totally appreciate Councillor Scott's concerns about this, but on the other hand, it is a primary step towards achieving a goal, and it's not going to be now as in untimely. We need to have this first step in order to get to the next stage to see whether it's actually going to be able to, whether it's going to be a workable project. So I think it's important that we vote on it tonight.
Yeah, it's just firstly, as Councillor Matthew Scott's already pointed out, especially because of the tourism thing, he's not available in the daytime, so he's not going to be about to help out, and other councillors aren't going to be about to help out with this. So I suppose it's just a question to the clerk whether she thinks that there's enough time in her schedule to do this, and it's something that she wants to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would be obviously involved in the induction process, which would take literally probably an hour. And then obviously I have, by this time, I have 2 assistants, not 1. So, the workload will be spread, and we are talking, September time we get to the stage where we're actually physically got people with us. So everything by then, obviously, will be settled down. This is unfortunately the busiest time of year for me, with all the reviews and things we're doing. But by September, obviously, we're past all that, and yeah.
So, with regards to the work experience, when do you think the school wants to send students? Do you know?
It's from September when the academic year starts. Yeah.
Okay. And what about the confidentiality issues that we may be going through at the time? How would we be able to work that out? Would we stop? Would we kind of say, sorry, we can't have a student at that point in time, or what are we going to do with regards to that?
So obviously, if there's a student on the premises, then I'll be the person responsible for ensuring that anything confidential, they're not shared with them. Absolutely. I mean, that goes for any visitor to the office. I would treat them exactly the same as I would another visitor. They're not actually permanently employed with us. They're here, and they are a duty of care, obviously, as the town council and the town clerk. We've got to them. So yeah, that would be taken care of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to propose that in terms of tonight's meeting, we might decide that we accept the proposal in principle, and that we invite the clerk to make preparations for such a scheme, but that we as a council would decide when to start implementing it. Is that fine? Yeah. Good, thank you. Will somebody second?
I second.
Councillor as well. Okay. All those in favour? Abstaining? So we now move on to the addendum, and it's new tonight. Resident and Community Consultation Survey. Along what seems a long time ago, when this council first was set up, we did launch over the Merry Christmas period a survey of residents' views about what we should adopt as our priorities. What did they think were the best things about Westgate and the things that we needed to improve. And we rather took that as our sort of path for thinking of future actions. It has to some extent been backed up by the consultations within the neighbourhood plan, but we thought it would be a good idea to revisit that area with a new council and see if you thought we should launch a new survey. Thank you, Councillor McCullough.
And so obviously, I was really, really keen on this because I was really impressed with the work that was done previously, and I think it's really important as a new council to basically reach out to the community again and get their viewpoints and opinions, because after 4 years people's opinions change. So I'm strongly in favour of us doing this because it was a good piece of work previously, and I think that it's something that we should adopt again.
Councillor Morford.
We do need to consult the residents so that we know that what they want, that we can spend research on. It's imperative that we know what residents need and want.
Agreed.
It goes a bit wider than that, I think, but anyway. Councillor Scott. Councillor Scott.
Sorry. I was just wondering who might write the questions and who's going to be writing the questions for the survey, and who's going to be organising the survey and how it might go ahead. Does it need to be a working group, or is it going to be part of the events?
Can I take
Okay.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, it's just to follow up Councillor Dr. Hannah Scott. To probably answer some of this, but I understand that this undertaking was originally part of the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, which they had a meeting within the pavilion, which were the posting notes, which sort of gave the residents a bit of a free ball in the first instance of what they were feeling was concerns, and then it formulated into a questions. The Q&A then followed afterwards. Is that what we're looking to do again? Because
So my whole purpose of bringing this back is that I'd like to run it the way that it was run previously, because I was really impressed at how it was managed. And in terms of getting the survey out to the community, we would use the next issue of News and Directory, because it would be delivered to every household. So we would have the ability to reach every household with the survey. But I proposed that we would run it exactly how it was run previously, because I think it was done in the best way possible.
Councillor White.
Yeah, the first survey from memory was done online. I think Dr. Hannah Scott wrote the questions. And we had it as both paper and online.
Yes.
I think the majority of the answers came in on the online version, which I happily set up back then. Have to do again.
I think that's correct.
Sorry, it was, what we first of all we did, we had a community event where then we had different aspects of Westgate, and they got to stick post-it notes up. So then from that, we then made the questions, but it was through a consultant as well, and we have a consultant because of the money from the Labour plan. So it was through a consultant as well, that she wrote the questions, and then you had like a Leica system,
Right, yeah.
the 1 to 5 kind of thing, which could be good if you want to do stats on it or whatever. But yeah, then we had the paper copy, which then we delivered. Did we deliver it to everyone?
Yes, I did.
We don't have to. It could be in the next issue.
Exactly.
And it was online through, I think it was SurveyMonkey, so it's quite straightforward, because then the information comes back and it's quite nicely presented already. So that would be quite good. But are you thinking of having a community day again where people can put sticky notes, or are you going to use previous surveys to write questions?
Not let the town clerk go.
Sorry?
Let the town clerk go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to propose, because we've got a stall for Westgate Day, the Town Council, we could make use of Westgate Day, because I think we can get quite a lot of feedback on that event.
Thank you. Councillor White.
I'm obviously talking about a different survey then, because it wasn't Survey Monkey. Brian Rickett gave it to me and I put it all online. It was done within the first.
Oh, it was the
3 or 6
first
months,
survey, yeah, it was the first survey that I wrote, yeah.
Yeah, so there were 2, were there?
So the first survey was, early on, and then the second survey was the neighbourhood plan survey.
Yeah.
Which is survey.
So this is like the first survey,
Yeah.
which you were able to analyse. As you're rightly saying, most of the replies,
Most of them are
if I remember rightly, about 2/3 of the replies were online.
Yeah.
And we were able to produce a bar chart with the responses to each question.
For both, actually, we did that.
Yeah. Well, is anybody against going ahead with the survey? So can we decide to conduct the survey?
Propose.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Caulfield and Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour?
So I just like to see the questions at some point.
Yeah.
That would be useful.
Sorry, I was going to actually propose that those that are interested in collating it have a meeting together and work out a way forward. It seems that we're all interested in doing it, but there's a couple,
Okay.
so I suggest Councillor Hannah Scott and Councillor McCabe and David, if we just do gets together and work out the best way.
Okay,
Yourself.
Questions? Can we decide to go ahead with it first of all? Yes.
Second.
Most seconded. In favour?
Thank you.
Thank you. Draft terms of reference for the Planning, Highways and Environment Committee. Again, I don't know if you've had time to look
And or the following issue, so this October issue, so that gives us plenty of time to do it, yeah. Because I know that we don't have time, so yeah, okay.
Well, can I ask, has everyone had a chance to read through the terms of reference? Apart from maybe Councillor Nightingale, who's just not.
I haven't read through them.
Can I make a proposal?
Yes.
Because we're running close to 9 o'clock, is this something that that can be reviewed and come back to via email, since the planning committee will be the people that are working to this?
No, the full council has to agree.
Okay.
No, I mean, coming back to it.
Because you're meeting next week.
Yeah. Is it
Sorry.
all right if we just have just a couple of minutes to read it?
Yeah, because the planning committee have a meeting next week,
Yeah.
so they need these terms of references.
Councillor Caulfield, are you wanting to intervene while we...
Should it be really clear that
Well, has everyone had a chance to read through?
7C, that those actions are through the clerk? Because we've experienced difficulties in the past.
Yes.
So make recommendations on behalf of full council through the clerk as to whether the application should be supported. Okay.
No.
No?
So the devolved authority and A to D should be through the clerk.
So not 7C.
Oh, sorry.
So 7C, make recommendations on behalf of full council. Should that be changed to make recommendations on behalf of the full council through the town clerk as to whether an application should be supported, blah, blah, blah.
What did you mean, Joanna?
Oh, sorry, I meant the devolved authority.
Yeah.
Oh, right, so it's not 7C.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is that?
A, B, C, D.
Oh, it's D.
All of them. So
Oh, I beg your pardon.
the committee
Okay.
can call an extraordinary meeting, can ask any district or county councillor to call in, can make representations. And all of this really should be through the clerk, but the clerk's going to be at the meeting, so it would be asked for you to do that, yeah.
Through the clerk. Okay.
It needs to be written in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because
So,
anybody, otherwise
yeah,
anybody
we
can
can add
read
that. Yeah, so add it into each line. A, B, C and D, or add it into the paragraph above? Sorry, I'm being pedantic.
No, it's
No, you're being authority.
Yeah, cool.
So for future, that's important where it goes.
Are there any other?
Well, it's strange because the wording, sorry,
No, yes, go ahead.
devolved authority, where the planning application is subject to time constraints for comments, which mean that a meeting will not be held before the deadline for comments. That a meeting will not be held. What meeting? A full council meeting? Before the deadline for comments. Then the committee have the authority of the full council to do any of the following, but the committee's not meeting, so I don't actually understand.
The meeting, that meeting will not be held before the, so that basically, so I need to clarify that slightly more. So basically that is that you have a meeting date already agreed, but if a planning application comes in where the comments are actually needed before that meeting date, then you have the ability to call an extraordinary meeting, ask a district or county councillor to call it in, etc., etc. So this is for things that come in between meeting times.
But how can the committee have the authority to do the following? It must be like the chair or the vice chair
So change it to the,
has the authority
so
to
the
do
chair
this.
or the vice chair of the committee.
Because the committees won't be meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So basically my understanding is that as planning applications come in, they get circulated to each of the members within, which will happen weekly. You may get a planning application that comes in last minute, but you're not meeting for another 2 weeks. So you'll want to basically do something with that planning application. Yeah.
Thank you. When the planning applications come in on a weekly basis, it's usually giving 3 to 4 weeks for comments. So normally, within a calendar month, it will fall that a meeting will take place. So it's not normally an issue. The only issue will be obviously August when there aren't any meetings. So that's when it may fall into play.
So then do you want to devolve the authority to the chair of the planning committee to make decisions on it though? You know, that's your decision as a council, really.
Yeah, I mean, what we've traditionally or historically done is that if the meeting doesn't fall in time, I've actually circulated that to members by email. So that's, if you're happy for that to continue, we can do that with the planning committee.
Okay.
So, all right, Councillor Crawford and Councillor Scott.
There is history of contentious applications being made at awkward times of the year, so I think we need to cover that.
And that's what I was kind of
Yeah. So can we not add on the clerk after have the authority of full council to do any of the following through the clerk?
So I think it's though,
it's for the clerk.
but then the chair and vice chair have the authority of the full council to do the following, because you're not actually going to be, it's not going to be the committee, is it?
Yeah,
No,
okay. So
yeah,
chair and
that's
vice.
fine. I thought you agreed with that.
So then can I just point out that number 4, the committee will meet monthly apart from August each year unless the need for an extraordinary meeting is required in an urgent planning application.
You can take that out. So,
Well, do you not think that
It's
it's,
fine.
yeah?
it's fine.
And then just on section 2, all meetings shall have minutes taken by the town clerk or other nominated person.
It's the town clerk, but obviously with the town clerk, you have suggested that you will come along to the planning meetings, haven't you? So I don't think or other nominated person needs to be in there, because if the town clerk's ill, then we just follow the rules of the town council.
Okay. That's why I wanted to draw your attention.
One quick thing there, where you change it to the chair, vice chair, it needs to be all on hand. I don't know what you said, it needs to be chair or vice chair, not and vice chair. Otherwise you might push it through.
So sorry I missed that. Or, you said, yeah, chair or vice chair.
If I can make one other comment, 8.
Well, can I intervene?
Yeah.
I think we will need to carry on to about 9:30 this rate, I'm afraid. someone like to propose that, otherwise we finish now.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
So, we don't
All
really
in favour, say aye.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Thanks. That's it for Councillor Scott, or was that non-subject?
Oh,
He's had a very long day.
available.
Okay,
You've only got
Councillor
mine,
Scott, you had a...
Can I just ask, with these terms of reference, Councillor McLeod, did you amend some of these? Did you take it from the previous planning
Yes.
terms of reference?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 8, the committee will carry out any site visits it feels is unnecessary to assist with deliberations.
Yeah.
That's really important that if any site visits are carried out, it's carried out through the clerk and with the clerk.
Through both.
So committee members are able to carry out any site visits with the clerk and through the clerk.
Yeah. There you go. So that
That's
goes
quite
on there.
Yeah,
Carry
that's
any
quite
site
important.
visits through and with the clerk, if it feels necessary, are to assist in these deliberations.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Is that it?
Can I ask what an outstanding matter is?
So if something is basically waiting on additional information, it becomes an outstanding matter, which you would then have as an agenda point until you had that information. So say, for example, you've had something where you're waiting for information and you haven't received it, then you don't take that off the agenda until you've received that information.
Okay. The title of the committee, is it going to be Planning, Highways and Environment Committee?
So I think we thought that was important because obviously environment ties in very much to planning.
Okay.
And so that's where we kind of went on. And just to clarify while you're reading, the reason that I got involved in working on these is obviously the town clerk has been tied up with interviews this week. So I volunteered to help do this work. So that's the only reason why this is my work rather than Jill's. But Jill has read through it and made any changes applicable as well.
Do you know if there was any terms of reference on the previous Planning, Highways and Environment Committee that wasn't on this?
I removed, there were some things under section 8 that were connected to old law, which was no longer appropriate. I think it was under section 8.
Can I point out that it's open to the committee at its first meeting to review its
Yeah.
statement and make any suggested changes,
Yeah.
make recommendations on it.
Yeah.
Suggested.
That was easier than the events and tourism.
This has been here before.
I know.
Take it away. Let's have a new one.
Okay, so-
to accept.
So, open
I propose that we accept these.
with the amendments. Thank you, Councillor Scott, seconding. All in favour?
I will do the amendments and Joe will circulate with the minutes.
So I now invite you to pass a resolution to exclude the present public from the remainder of the meeting because of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted.
We should be about 20 minutes maybe, just in case the members wanted to speak to us after. I don't know if he will come to speak to us. I think it'll be about 20 minutes.
Well,
There's nothing on the agenda now after this item. This is the last item on the agenda.
I was just wondering whether anybody in the audience have come along so they can speak to us at the close of our meeting. So I was just going
well,
to...
I'm just sorry, we decide on
That's very thoughtful
format
of
of the
you.
meeting. I
Emma.
can't give it. I don't know how long you will want to discuss the final item for.
Okay.
Councillor Scott.
Can I propose then, before we pass to a resolution of excluding the public and press, we have a brief interim where we can engage with the potential residents.
And that's what
Yeah. these are our taxpaying residents and they do wish to talk to us. So.
Yeah, not everyone can get in during the opening hours of the office.
Well, how long do you want to break for?
Well, as I suggested, 5 minutes, and I believe that was some people have made the effort today to come in for 2 hours.
I'll second 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We can suspend for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We do need to pass a resolution excluding the public as always, because of the popular business. Sort of, someone could propose that.
Please.
Second, Councillor Scott, in favour?